Welcome to another edition of Hometown Happenings. I'm Supervisor George Hoehmtown. Thanks for joining us. Well, we've got a great show lined up for you today with a couple of great guests. But before we get to those introductions, let's talk a little bit about what's going on here in the town of Clarkstown. So as you might have noticed, and it's really already become a very popular attraction, we've opened up our Phase 1 project is completed at our West Nyack Hamlet Green Park. It's a great addition here to the town of Clarkstown. As you recall, we had the small park. It was literally just a gazebo and a little green space opposite the West Nyack Post Office. We did a great project where we were able to acquire about $1.5 million in grant funding. It's over a $4.5 million total project that includes a brand new handicap accessible playground, adult exercise equipment, brand new parking space and parking area, a totally reconfigured green space with a brand new gazebo. We're going to be having summer concerts down there. And of course, very exciting down there in the park is the brand new walkway and boardwalk with the recreated wetlands and pond area. It's really a beautiful new feature within West Nyack, within the town. We've been by there on numerous times, numerous days, literally 100 or more people enjoying the park and the playground. So it's really, we can see it's a great new attraction. The park is essentially complete. We're awaiting a couple of finishing touches. There'll be a fireman's memorial fountain is being constructed with the old fireman's memorial being put in place. That should be done shortly. And we have several statues and monuments that are being created, two statues in particular of Tom and Dan Foley, West Nyack heroes, and those should be completed by the artist during the summer, and they'll be installed by the end of the summer for an unveiling around 9/11 down at the park. I'm very much looking forward to Memorial Day when we're going to have a ceremony down at this new park, and I'm also looking forward to the several concerts that are being scheduled down there. We've got Sheridan Routine, which will be coming in July, and we've got at least two other concerts during the course of the summer. So it'll be great to have some Hamlet area concerts that'll be taking place on a Wednesday night down at the park. So it's a wonderful project that's just been completed. In addition to that, we've got a number of other projects that we're working on, and you'll hear a good bit about those over the coming months. But the other big news within the town is the Snake Hill Road Bridge. That's a county bridge. The town, a number of years ago, my administration was able to secure several $1 million in grant funding from New York State. The town has a shared interest in that bridge. We're responsible for the approaches to the bridge and also the wearing course, the top covering of the bridge. The actual bridge itself is a county bridge, so the county is responsible for it. We were able to get the lion's share of the cost of the replacement covered by a state grant, and the town is managing the project. The bridge is closing April 3rd and will stay closed until the project is complete at the end of August. The plan is to have it open no later than Labor Day. Check our website, check the DFM website for detours. Snake Hill Road Bridge will be closed. Detours will bring you around through Valley Cottage to be able to go through that way. I know it will be an inconvenience, but we're replacing our aging infrastructure. Also, we're going out to bid shortly for the continuing work down in West Nyack with Phase 2, which will be a complete roadway reconstruction, and you'll hear more about that on future Hometown Happening shows. So a lot going on here in the town of Clarkstown. We're also doing several ball fields. We have the Zucker Park field, which will be kicking off with construction at the end of April. It will be the first turf field in the town of Clarkstown. A little later on in the summer, we'll be doing the Jermons ball field. The middle level at Jermons will be actually turning that into a turf field that will be great for lacrosse and soccer and football, as well as a softball field there in the area as well. And we're also adding 8 new pickleball courts over in New City at Zucker Park, right behind Street School. And all of these projects, all these ball fields will be done by the end of the summer to the end of the year. It's some great new upgrades to the facilities here in the town of Clarkstown. So a lot going on, and I really want to thank all the staff and the team here in the town that have helped put this together. So we've got a great show for you today coming up. We have Jason Horowitz and David Palma from REBOP It's a young professional group through the RBA of business owners. We also have Jeff Domanski from Rockland Community Power, who will talk about that important program. And then we have veteran Damien Shea, who was a veteran who served in Iraq, during that conflict. All that and more on this edition of Hometown Happenings. Stay tuned. Welcome back. My first guests are David Palma and Jason Horowitz, co-chairs of REBOP with the Rockland Business Association. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate being here.
Delighted to have you on. We've been looking to have you on for a couple of months now, and glad we were able to finally get it coordinated. So why don't you tell our viewers what REBOP actually stands for and what you guys do?
Definitely. REBOP stands for Rockland Emerging Business Owners and Professionals. We are a subcommittee of the RBA, Rockland Business Association, and it's an organization. When was our first event? 2019, October?
October 2019 was our first meeting, and our first event was in December.
In December.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had our first event before it was even official. We had over 70 people in attendance, which I think really showed that there was such a demand for younger professionals to gather and get together in Rockland County.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So one of the things that the RBA does to really help local businesses be able to develop and thrive. And one of the things they also help is really with their own marketing. So REBOP is just another facet of that, and it's great to see because it's young people that are business owners and professionals. And so we're going to delve into that a little bit, but let's talk about each of you guys individually. So Jason, let's start with you.
Excellent.
Tell me a little bit about your family background, and you work for Triforce.
Yeah,
right?
correct. So I'm the broker of record for Triforce Commercial Real Estate. We are a strictly commercial real estate brokerage licensed in New York, New Jersey, and Delaware. Mm-hmm. Very fortunately, that's been going very well. And as you know, my mentor, Mark Lassell, who unfortunately passed away, was an incredible driving factor for me and force for me that really propelled me forward. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Rockland County, so Rockland's very important to me. Most of my peers feel as if once they grow up, they need to leave Rockland, which I think is a shame because Rockland has incredible resources and it's just a really great location. Mm-hmm. So I went undergrad, Monmouth University, business with a concentration in real estate, IT minor. I felt I wasn't ready to really go into the world yet, so I stayed and got my master's. At the same time, I had a full-time internship and a few other projects I was working on. Got my real estate license. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I think one day it would be important to me. So I'm going on about 10 years being licensed, just about. And that's just my little spiel overall. I mean, I'm heavily involved in a family property management company. We manage about 5,400 units in the city. That's been a great resource. I'm also involved in the insurance realm, and I've been trying to focus on my own portfolio of acquisitions via real estate.
That's great. I mean, really very accomplished, as a young professional business owner. So, and David, you as well. So let's hear your background.
Yeah. Basically, my company, Paid Processing, I have gotten into the merchant service payment industry after years and years of banking.
David, actually, Joe, we're going to stop just for 1 sec. So it's going to be distracting if you keep on swaying.
Okay.
So I know we're nervous, but
Yeah.
so I'm going to start over. So just with right, Joe, we'll just cut there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, because I'm seeing it out of the corner, so somebody watching it going to, and we tell people that's a lot of
Oh,
times.
no, I know. I get it. I'm learning.
That's fine. No worries. So we'll start over. So I'll pick it up again. So David, let's hear about yourself.
Sure. Thank you. So my name's David. I am one of the co-founders of Paid Processing. We're a merchant service company specializing in point of sales, restaurants, dealing with a lot of restaurants here in Rockland County. It's been my favorite area to work with. We service other areas of payments as well as, lawyers, anyone who takes credit card or even crypto nowadays. And I was actually born here in Rockland. My family moved here in the 80s, and they basically had a lot of electricians in the area, the Raffa family, and over time, I went down to Texas when I was 11 years old, where my father was, and I came back in 2018 to spend some time with my mother, and I've been in Rockland ever since. And I've really enjoyed being here, growing my business, doing different things. My background is banking, and it's really expanded over the past couple of years, and I'm happy to be here in Rockland. Yeah.
And so let's, one of the things too, it's interesting, so I found it fascinating, we were talking beforehand, that you actually have a background in boxing, fighting?
Yes, that was high school. I did boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. That lasted for about 5 years, basically from middle school to the end of high school. And then after that, I had a knee injury where I tore my ACL and destroyed my meniscus, and that was kind of the end of my career there.
But there's not too many former fighters that you'll meet. So, and I have to imagine that tenacity from the ring is something that translates well into the business world.
I would say so. You definitely have to follow up, whether it's a punch or with the client, though.
Right.
I like that.
So let's delve into REBOP a little bit. So as I said, the RBA does some great stuff. Al Samuels is legendary here. Anybody who knows him in Rockland County, and the RBA they have monthly luncheons and meetings, and they'll get 100 or more business owners and associates of businesses that'll come, and usually a guest speaker. But they've got nice subcommittees and groups. We've had people on from the construction and real estate developers group. They've got some environmental programs as well. But I'm fascinated, and I love this approach, this young business professional group. So tell us about that group. How many people are in it, and what gave you guys the impetus to start that up?
I would say there's definitely a floating figure of how many people are involved. I would say in the beginning of in the inception, the numbers were very strong. Everything was going in the right direction. Our first unofficial event had over 70 people. Our first round tables were, I think, averaging around, like, let's say 16, 17 people monthly, which was ideal. Our plan was quarterly events. We had 100 people registered for our first official quarterly event, and then COVID hit. So we had to pivot, as everyone did. The RBA did a great job with that, and we followed in their footsteps. They called it pivot or perish. That's a term that I heard very often.
Yep.
So we did the same. Our numbers on Zoom were good overall, and then they dwindled. So right now where we are is at the stage of rebuilding that, rekindling relationships with organizations. We're very grateful for RCC that have provided us with, I guess, a permanent home for our monthly meetings now for space. Mm-hmm. So we're really looking forward to that. But right now, I mean, we just encourage any employers that have younger employees that perhaps want to practice just interpersonal skills and networking and discussing with their peers. I remember being much younger at networking events where I felt like I wasn't really given the time of day, right. And it was very difficult. And we want to make sure that all the people that are working out there, younger professionals who want mobility and to move up in the world. Has people that could, be at their back, I guess, for lack of better words, right. And be there for them. And
I would like to add that a lot of our original people that started showing up to these councils are still very involved. They still talk, they still communicate, and they're still being part of the planning process of growing and being that resource for young professionals in the county. And also, we want to just provide networking events for the people who just want to come and meet other young professionals and other business owners. If they don't want to be involved in the growth, that's okay. It's still a resource for us to all get to know each other and see what's available here in Rockland versus having to go outside of Rockland.
Right. And really kind of, let's take this conversation in a slightly different direction if you think about it. So there's people that are watching this, and you're young, very successful professionals, business owners, professionals that have taken a risk and a chance. So what advice would you give to a young person? There's loads of opportunities and possibilities out there for people, but what advice would you give somebody who's looking to start up a business or has an idea or wants to go out on their own?
That's an incredible question, and I like being asked that question, especially by younger people that I've been helped train in the real estate world and just in general. I would say find mentors. Find people. They don't necessarily have to be in the same industry, but people that are very successful, learn from them, figure out what about them you want to emulate and things that you perhaps don't want to emulate. But I would say learn from other people's mistakes and successes, and I think that really has always helped me. Some of my friends call me like an old soul because I find like the majority of my friends are substantially older than me. Right. And I really enjoy learning from people, and usually you'll learn that people, they like to deal with younger people. They want to teach them. They want to pay it forward. I would imagine the majority of very successful people did the same thing. They found mentors. So the key word I would say is find mentors.
And Dave, we'll get to you in a sec, but you had mentioned earlier, and I didn't want it to go by, but Mark Lassell was a very good friend of mine, as you know, and it's so sad to think that this May will be 2 years since he passed away. It's hard to think. For those that know, just as an aside, during my teletown hall calls, Mark I'd have my cell phone next to me, and we'd be on Facebook Live with the camera, in front of us, and with the screen in front of us as we're taking all the calls, and Mark would be giving me a running commentary of how I should answer questions and commentary on some of the callers and what have you. So I miss Mark every day. I miss him to this day.
Dearly. Yeah.
But he was one of the best, if not the best, commercial broker that I've ever met. And so having him as a mentor, you were fortunate for that.
Very fortunate.
And that's great advice, because mentors are great because they've been through it. They can impart some knowledge. There are things that some people can forget with that in their career, like literally, and mentors literally they can toss off a little bit of information that they think is inconsequential, but it could be really important to somebody who's just starting out.
Agreed. I have one additional comment. One thing I like to ask these mentors is, tell me your war stories. I want to hear about when things were at their worst, because most people, that's a question. First off, they'll take most people off guard and be like, well, that's an interesting question, because when everything's great, everything's great. But it's the true testament of an individual on how they handle when they're at their lowest. And I think those are the stories that they like to recall, because it shows you or reminds them how far they've come. So that would be a question I would throw out to a mentor.
So David, what's your advice to a younger person looking to start up a business or go out on their own?
Yeah, actually, there's usually two pieces of advice I always give. One is, don't underestimate your resources. There are a lot of people that you may network with, that you may meet, that you may come across, talk with them, learn from them. It's similar to being a mentor, but there's a lot of different things that you don't have to do everything yourself. I feel like a lot of new business owners fall into the trap that I need to run my marketing, I need to run this, I need to run that, and they become a one-person show to where things that are very important, stop becoming important to them. And it causes their business to go flat. Whereas if they have resources, they get advice, they learn the different things, and they are more willing to hire experts versus doing a 1-hour Google search, doing research and feeling like they're an expert in something, and it may not be the best fit for your business. The other one is to,
No, that's fine. Actually,
it's okay. We have the fire alarm.
We have the fire alarm, so let's wait for it to stop.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that happens. I feel bad. I stopped him on the chair. And the alarm.
It's okay. I froze there too.
Literally, go out and buy a lottery ticket tonight.
If you had known my week, this adds up.
We'll just wait for that to finish up.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Thank you. This is incredible. I love this. This is really exciting. Again, I'm very grateful for having you.
Yeah,
for you having us.
And so what we'll end up doing is this goes up on our YouTube channel. We'll put it out via social media. Eric will get some pictures. We'll give to you guys.
Yeah, please. And then we'll push it on our social medias and all that as well.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So go ahead. Pick up
with the other one. And the other one.
The second item.
Yeah, I blanked now. I had it clearly thought of. Resources.
Maybe action.
I
What was the question again, George?
advice to business.
Advice.
Yeah.
for young people trying to start out.
Yeah, I had something solid, and then it all just went away after.
Well, how about he talked about mentors. What do you think about that? So you can say, and the other one, maybe I agree with Jason on mentors.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And the other one I would definitely say is find someone to bounce things off of. A mentor could be, as Jason said, someone not in your industry, but someone who maybe has same values, mindset, work ethic that you see similarities with, because that means you'll be able to identify with it and be able to use some of those strategies that maybe they have. And then especially someone different, because you need to see the other perspective, because there are things that people miss in their day-to-day.
Right. Great advice. Absolutely great advice on all accounts. So what's next for REBOP? You're building it back up. You just recently, a couple of months ago, I was at a ribbon cutting to Ladders Brewery, the new microbrewery down in West Nyack, and you guys were there, which was great to start the conversation again. But you're doing things like that. What's next for REBOP? What are you guys looking to do?
I think we want to continue to help newer businesses and things like that. For example, the two ladder guys, those are clients. They're incredible guys, and we were happy to have the event there. David could speak a little bit further on how, thankfully, at RCC, we have a more permanent space for meeting. So I think we're just trying to get the word out there further, but any additional comments on that?
Yeah, right now, now that things are going back in person and we're back on the growth plan, we have space in RCC. It's completely set up to have adequate meetings so that way we can start planning new things, whiteboards, AV. They've been extremely generous in providing space to have us grow, as well as discussing things with working with interns and also small businesses, getting interns in the area. So that way there's small businesses who don't know how to properly take on interns. They can still look towards the community versus looking outside or virtual or outsourcing. You know, there's resources right here that we are trying to connect, and I think RCC has been a huge help in at least opening the doors and asking the questions of showing us where to go in that direction.
Well, this has really been great. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you guys, how do they do it?
Yeah, so for me, they could reach out on Instagram at Tri4CRE. My email is jason@tri4cre.com. My cell phone I give out to everybody is 845-323-9177. And I'm sorry, 845-323-9177. Anyone can reach out anytime. I love to talk about real estate, life in general, and I especially encourage younger individuals that might be watching this to please reach out.
Okay. For me, you can reach out Instagram as well at Paid Processing, P-A-Y-E-D spelled the cool way, as well as my email is david@paidprocessing.com. And if anyone wants to reach out on my cell phone, I think it's the easiest number in Rockland, 845-584-2000.
Oh, cool. That is a good number. Great number. Easier than the town number, actually. We're 639-2000 and 639-205, all my office. But great numbers and you know, great content. More importantly, just it's great to see young professionals in Rockland County that have a future. I hear this all the time from people saying, you know, we're an aging county and we don't have the younger people here. And while it's true, there are not as many young people that are staying here. There is a resurgence. In the town of Clarkstown, we actually grew by almost 3% from the last census. We were one of 3 out of the 5 towns grew in population. We were one of the 3 that grew. We've got some younger professionals coming up, you know, through the ranks here, and it's good to see young people taking leadership positions. We expect a lot of you guys in the next number of years.
Thank you very much.
So thanks for being such great guests.
Thank you for having us.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
You know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
And welcome back to Hometown Happenings with Supervisor George Hoehmtown. My next guest is Jeff Domanski from Rockland Community Power. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
So delighted to have you back. And you know, Rockland Community Power is a great group that has been put together to really work with local municipalities to help save money and provide renewable energy as a source for electricity for our residents. So maybe you could talk a little bit about Rockland Community Power, just give a little bit of background on it.
Sure, yeah, no, it is the partnership that includes Clarkstown and the other communities. So Rockland Community Power it's the 6 communities now in Rockland, and Jewel is the administrator. My nonprofit is there to support the program, which I have a bias, but I love the fact that we are there to be an education resource for the community members in the ever-changing world of the energy marketplace. And then together, collectively, we picked Constellation New Energy to be the supplier for the program. So it seems like a lot of players, but it's a lot of players working together to deliver a benefit to the community.
Right. So talk a little bit about the underpinnings of how a community can select the energy provider for its residents and what goes into that and the legality behind that.
Sure, yeah, it's based on the same opportunity that every utility customer has had available to them since the 1990s, since deregulation. So back in deregulation times, there was an opt-out program established by the state, and a lot of people don't realize that, but they're in an opt-out condition for 25 plus years now, being that if you don't make a choice in the private marketplace, the state said that the utility makes your supply choice for you. for a number of reasons, a number of overlapping benefits. The state gave communities, cities and towns and villages, the ability to act on behalf of their community members to offer a new default condition. And so what communities do in partnership, as part of this broad partnership, is they vet the marketplace. Well, first they pass a local law. There's a legality, a very important point. So all communities, Clarkstown included, passed a local law when we did this the first time between 2020 and 2022. So you were set up for that for the first contract. But that gives you the right to explore the marketplace with Jewel as your guide, and then to optimize an offer to the communities. And including, and the analogy I often use is, this partnership is in essence a buying club, like Costco or BJ's Wholesale. But the power of numbers, you get leverage to get a better rate for often a better product. And in this case, as you said, we can support renewables at a really competitive rate.
Right. And you know, this was a very successful program, you know, for us in Clarkstown. And just to reiterate for folks, because oftentimes, you know, some of the calls we've gotten to town hall on the first program, and then that ended, and then we're now into, you know, the second program now. But the calls that people would make, they're like, who gives you the right to choose for me? And, you know, do you have like the stats roughly? I mean, it's close to what, 70% they don't choose. Like literally they're just, and you end up then by default, an electric supplier is chosen for you, correct?
Right, without any input. When the utility, when Orange and Rockland makes a choice, they don't ask for our input on who they choose. And it's dominantly non-renewable. So you talk about stats, it's true. When we launched the program, it's, you know, we include typically about 75 on average, about % of the community in the program. Before we start the program, that private marketplace, a very small number actually choose to be in that marketplace, despite the fact that when you read the surveys, numerous surveys out there, including Consumer Reports in 2018, surveying Americans of all stripes, you know, regardless of their background or what state they live in, 80% of Americans want renewable power, but only like less than 10% actually, you know, it's a challenging choice. It can be overwhelming. The utility bill seems simple in some ways, but complex in others. So that's the beauty of the program. In a new opt-out default, by giving this competitive vetting and optimizing, you're offering that access to renewables at a really great rate. So that's the beauty in the way it works.
And so that first program that we did, that first 2-year program, how much money was saved in that program?
Oh, it was really significant, and it was an unusually good program because we had done the program a 2-year contract between 20 and 2022. And it was the time period. We had a rate that was good. It was comparable for the marketplace at the time. It was a rate about 7 cents for 100% renewable, New York State sourced renewable power. And then what happened there is that the market did go very high. So the comparable market, the apples to oranges, if you will, are 100% renewable compared to Orange and Rockland's predominantly non-renewable. It went very high. I mean, double-digit rates commonly. And so over the life of that contract, it was tens of millions of dollars statewide were saved. Down here in Rockland alone, it approached, I think, $10 million in savings across all the communities. But the average household saved at least a couple $100s on an annual basis through the program. So, I mean, and that was exceptional. We're not promising that kind of savings going forward, but it speaks to the power of this idea.
That's great. And here in Clarkstown, it was 5.3. Just over 5.3 million that was saved by the Clarkstown residents and businesses. Again, we had the public hearing, established the program, and then we then brought in the, brought you folks in that, were doing that, and then Jewel to, and then Constellation now. And so, that was great because there are about 16,000 households and businesses that saved just over $5.3 million in the town over a 2-year period. Again, we anticipate there, historically, if you look at it, there's going to be savings going forward. It's probably not going to be on the order of that magnitude, but there certainly are going to be savings, it looks like, going forward.
Yes.
So tell us how people can opt in and opt out.
So it's available to anybody within the municipal borders. Absolutely anybody can be part of it. There are many folks who are not automatically included in this opt-out. If you have a third-party supply contract, you're not included. If you're on home energy assistance program, you're not included. Larger commercial customers are not automatically included. But anybody can join, and anybody could opt out at any time, as you said. And to do so, I mean, there is the ways going forward. Past this initial period when the letters were sent, when there was a mailer with a prepaid envelope. Going forward, though, there is we're post-pandemic times, it's seeming
Right.
safely now. So seeing us in person at the public events that we'll continue to do. You can give us information to join or to opt out in person, but more commonly, it's the phone number, the helpline, which is 845-859-9099, or the website, rocklandcommunitypower.com. And you could go over CCA, which is the acronym for the program. That's Charlie, Charlie, Apple, or Community Choice Aggregation, and hover over the enrollment change form. And you could opt in, opt out, or change your rate. There's
Right.
rate options in Clarkstown too. So at any point during the 18 months of this contract, you can change.
Right. And when does it actually officially start?
After the meter read date in April, so in the month coming up. So after Orange and Rockland reads your meter, your next meter read date, which varies for everybody, they'll apply the program rate if you stay in the program.
Right. Okay. And again, so there's some switch letters that have been out there. Maybe you could speak to
Yes. So letters went out originally in March, early March, sometimes late February, early March, from the program with Clarkstown's seal on it, letting people know what the program was, the details. It had that prepaid envelope, indicated a 30-day period. They just never wanted to be included, never switched in. That was the 30-day opt-out period. Now what's happening is we're approaching the end of that opt-out period for people. And again, anybody could opt out at any time, but now that we're about to do that transition with the meter read date coming up in April, the switch letters that are next coming up are letters from Orange and Rockland. So people get another notice. It's another indication that you're about to be part of this program.
Right.
So those are probably starting to go into mailboxes next week for the earliest wave of people.
Okay. Great. And then there's some info sessions that have been out there as well.
Yep, it was just at the Nanuet Library last night, and we'll continue to schedule these events. Zoom meetings, but a lot of in-person meetings too.
How have the turnouts been for these sessions?
You know, it's amazing. We live in very busy times. Last night we had about a dozen people join us, which was nice. It's a beautiful room there at the library. Very much appreciate them hosting us again. The first time, there was 2 events advertised in that letter that went out. We had about 30 to 40 people the first time. So an interested group. They definitely wanted to know what was going on.
Good. Very good. And so how do people find out more information? Where can they go again?
rocklandcommunitypower.com. No spaces or dots, just rocklandcommunitypower.com. That's the website.
Well, Jeff, it's been great working with you these last number of years, and,
Yeah, such a pleasure.
it's a great program, and delighted that that we're continuing with it again. Hopefully, our residents are going to save some more money, but importantly, it's great to just have a format for renewable energy to become the source, because we're reducing our carbon footprint by doing that.
Yep, it's fabulous. Great work here in Clarkstown.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
So stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music and we talked. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic. Your honesty gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted in my own life.
And I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, in whatever you do.
Talk, they hear you.
Welcome back to Hometown Happenings. Our final guest is in our veteran segment, retired U.S. Marine and combat veteran Damien Shea. Damien, welcome.
Thank you, George.
So, Damien, we love doing on these programs, and we've been doing like 80 of them. We always have a veteran on. We try and have a veteran on just about every show, and you're in our veteran segment. And I've known you for a number of years, and you've been extremely involved within the community. So before I even begin, I just want to thank you for your service to our country. And really looking forward to the opportunity to have our viewers to learn a little bit more about you and about your service. So maybe you could talk to us, give us a little bit about your background, where you were born and raised, your family.
Sure, yeah. So born and raised in West Nyack. Both my parents are from the city. My father was an Irish Christian brother. Gave that up to have a family, luckily. I'm youngest of 5. My older brother Mike is a retired Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. He's currently a police officer out in Suffolk County, Long Island. He went to the Naval Academy as well. My brother Dennis is a retired Navy SEAL. Hard to live up to that.
Yeah.
He's also a police officer out in Long Island. My brother Timmy's active duty still. He'll complete his 20th year this year. He's also a Navy SEAL. Again, hard to live up to. My brother Kevin is a police officer here in Clarkstown. He is currently in the military still, and he is a JAG officer. I believe he is a lieutenant commander right now. So pretty impressive background for my family. And then I also Marine Corps, obviously, 6 years active duty, and I retired as a corporal.
Right, and I've known your family since I was a kid, through St. Francis, and your dad, former Christian brother, and they were known for their discipline. So obviously there was discipline there because you all ended up in the military and in law enforcement, it seems. So let's kind of get into. Obviously, there was like a calling, I guess, if you would, a drive, because their whole family kind of seemed to gravitate towards service and towards the military. So what made you want to decide to, join the Marines?
I think for most New Yorkers, 9/11 was a really driving factor for me. And same with my brother Tim. My grandfather was in the Marine Corps, served World War II. He served in the Pacific. And then my great-grandfather served World War I. So it was always instilled in us. One of my uncles served in Vietnam, but really just for me it was 9/11.
Right. Yeah, and I would imagine, given your age, you probably had some familiarity with people that died in the towers, probably the Foley family as well from our
Sure, yeah. So being born and raised in West Nyack, I served with the West Nyack Fire Department. I've just completed 20 years in 2021. Right. So I joined right before the attacks in the World Trade Center. Right. So again, that totally hit home for me. Right,
because Tommy and Danny Foley both, were, aside from being members of the FDNY, and Tommy, of course, died in the towers, and then Danny as a result of 9/11 illness. And really excited, the new park is open down there, and the statues of Tommy and Danny will be done, in August, and they'll be installed by 9/11 is the plan, and we'll look to work with the fire department to do, probably close the street and do some type of big ceremony down there after the statues are up.
Yeah, it's a beautiful park.
Yeah, really worked out well. So let's get into your service. So you were in the active duty for 6 years. I know you were involved in some work that was classified, obviously, so can't talk about some of that, but walk us through. Where did you go for your initial training, your basic training, and then your service in the Marines? Walk us through that.
Sure. So I went to Parris Island, South Carolina, Marine Corps Recruit Depot. I did my boot camp down there, and then from there I did we call it A school. I went to Corey Station in Pensacola, Florida. I went to school for cryptology, so code breaking. I did that for approximately 6 months. And then I went to Camp Pendleton, California. I was assigned to 1st Radio Battalion. We did a stand-up for about 5 months where we did our workup for deployment. Deployed to Iraq, my first tour. That was in 2006. I spent 7 months in Iraq. I was in the Al-Anbar province, which is the west portion of Iraq. I worked closely with Marines on the ground. We would provide intelligence to where weapons caches were, if there was any sort of imminent attacks or imminent threats. So it was really a rewarding job, knowing I was keeping Marines safe and soldiers as well.
So tell me about that. So 2006, there were some difficulties in Fallujah, and like 2005. So that was a really tough time. Coming out of that. 2004 into 2005, and then a little bit of a lull, but 2006 kind of a resurgence. So, what was that like? Being in combat.
Not knowing sometimes is difficult, but for me, keeping your head up and keeping your head up,
right.
Knowing you're gonna come home soon enough. And again, for me, it was keeping guys safe.
Right.
That was my primary concern.
One of the guys that you were probably keeping safe was my nephew. My nephew was in a fast recon unit in the Marines. He was over there in 06.
Okay.
He like you, did two tours over there.
Okay.
Around the same time.
Maybe we crossed paths.
Yeah, you probably did. So that's the first tour of duty that you were there, and that had to be as you said, somewhat rewarding because you're really keeping Marines safe. So what happened after that? They cycled you out?
So after that, I came home. I was home for about 4 or 5 months, and we deployed again. I did 8 months that tour. Again, same thing. I was an intel analyst working with keeping Marines safe, Army soldiers. We had some sailors as well.
Right.
Gathering intelligence however we could, and ensuring the safety of our troops on the ground, making sure their operations are safe, their travel is safe, reloading cryptology sometimes, flying out to bases, helping out with the commanders and stuff.
Right. And so a lot of logistic work from the intel perspective sounds like is what you were doing too.
Yes. Yep.
Which frankly, it's not the most the glamorous, but it's certainly extremely necessary, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you finished up your second tour of duty. Then what happened?
So I was joking with you earlier. The Marine Corps kind of made a mistake. They had given me orders to be reassigned to Norfolk, Virginia. At the time, 3 of my brothers were stationed down there as well, so it was kind of party central, but not really. It was great. It was great being able to see my brothers. I haven't seen them in probably 5 or 6 years, other than the occasional Christmas.
Right.
There was a point in time that I believe it was in 2006, maybe May, June of 2006. Myself, my brother Timmy, and my brother Dennis were all stationed in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
So, all in different spots. But again, it was pretty cool being reassigned to Norfolk. So when I got down there, I was assigned to a unit, and we took over war games. We trained brigade-size elements, and we ended up changing the way that the military did their reporting for intelligence gathering for units in both Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it was, again, another rewarding experience. We would do 10-day war games, and it was everything from logistics to air support to ground fighting elements to intelligence gathering to air assets. It was a multi-level exercise.
Wow. And so how long were you staying down there?
So I was there from November of 2007 up until September of 2010 when I ended up getting out.
Right. And what'd you do after you got out?
So I had a job lined up down in Virginia doing the same work. I ended up really sitting on it and deciding that wasn't going to be for me. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to pursue a different avenue. So I ended up coming home, and I went to SUNY Maritime College in the Bronx, Drogs Neck. I majored in marine operations with a study in engine operations. So it took me a little more than 4 years. I ended up graduating from there in 2015. I graduated with a third assistant engineer's license. And then I worked on ships and tugboats up until I got hired here in Clarkstown.
Yeah, and tell the people what you're doing here.
Yeah, so I'm working as a police radio dispatcher now for Clarkstown Police. I've been doing that since 2019. Another rewarding job, keeping our citizens safe here in Clarkstown. Right. Very similar to my experiences in the Marine Corps. So, somebody's having the worst day of their life, and they get me on the other end, and I help make it better.
And it's great to see we've had some younger vets with some real significant experience, not just hired in the police department, but also dispatchers. Liz is one of the other dispatchers. She's also a veteran as well. Hired pretty close to the same time you were, right?
We have Liz Gessel, dispatcher, and then we also have Peter Monroe, is also
Peter Monroe,
Army veteran. So 3 veterans in succession is pretty cool.
Yeah, really, it was glad to see that, working that through with Chief McCullough. So it was great. And you're doing a wonderful job, over there as well. So you're also involved in a bunch of veterans groups now, right? So you've been the commander of the Upper Nyack VFW. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so commander of the VFW in Upper Nyack for the past 5 years. We do a few events through the VFW. One of our big events is the Memorial Day Parade down in Nyack. But that weekend, on the Saturday before, we always go up to Oak Hill Cemetery. We have roughly 900 veterans buried there, and we replace each and every flag for those veterans that are entombed there.
Right. And the VFW really becomes a place where older veterans, younger veterans, they can all kind of connect. It's a place, I know that when I was over at Rockland Independent Living, now Bridges, where they had the Dwyer program, we could talk about it, right? And I could even see when I was asking you a little bit how you were a little reluctant, because most vets don't want to talk about their service. And every time I do this type of interview, most vets just don't want to they don't want to talk about themselves, and they don't want to talk about their service. But oftentimes, the commonality of being able to get together, and that happens in a VFW, it happens in a Legion Hall. So I know you're involved in a bunch of these locations. Tell us a little bit, you're also involved with something really important going on almost 2 years now with some Afghan expatriate refugees that are being supported here in the community. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so during the pullout of Afghanistan, I organized with another member of my VFW. We ended up doing clothing runs down to Fort Dix, where they housed the majority of the refugees coming in. We brought down approximately 13 tons of clothing, baby items, that sort of stuff. Worked with local churches, local mosque here in Valley Cottage, and a few other churches, like I said, in West Nyack, Pearl River, New City, St. Greg's up in Garnerville. So another rewarding experience, us giving back. And then once that concluded, we're now working with a organization called Hearts and Homes for Refugees based out of Westchester, and we've adopted a family of 6 refugees from Afghanistan. They're here in Clarkstown, and they're thriving.
Oh, that's great.
We have volunteers that are helping with education, healthcare, employment, rides, taking the family members to classes at BOCES to learn English. 2 of them are doctors, really great people. Right. And one of the teenagers, the son, is enrolled in one of the high schools here. So
that's great.
If anybody's interested in volunteering, we're always looking for volunteers.
So how do they do that? Who do they contact?
And they could reach out to me. My number's listed on the Rockland County Veterans Service Agency website, or my email address is on there as well.
So, give it to them.
Sure. So my cell phone number is 757-803-4382, and my email address is D as in Damien, M as in Mike, S as in Sam, H as in Henry, E as in Edward, A as in Adam, the number 1 @gmail.com.
Great. And hopefully you get some folks that'll consider donating or volunteering time for that. Well, you're also involved with Carry the Load, so that's coming up. You want to touch base on that?
Sure. So Carry the Load's another great program. Sean McGee really got it running here in Clarkstown. I'm lucky to help him out this year with it. It's been going on since 2011. 2 SEALs from Texas got together and said, "Hey, let's get a walk going." They did their first walk was 20 hours and 11 minutes, covered 400 miles, and it's bringing awareness to what Memorial Day really is, the true meaning, not just the barbecues or the barbecues or the picnics. It's about remembering our dead, remembering those who put their lives down for our country. So we have Memorial Day, which is for our dead, and we have Veterans Day for our living.
Right. And it's great. They come through here in Congress. It'll be May 1st. They meet over at Patricia Avenue. I was so happy when I was a councilman. Sean brought it to me. I brought it to the town, and we've been doing it every year since. And we've got hundreds of people that will come, and they'll march from Patricia Avenue down Old Haverstraw Road, down Congers, Lake Road into the park, and there'll be Cousins Moran playing some music. There'll be presentation of the wreath, as well as full military honors with a rifle salute and taps commemorating our dead. And this is part of they carry the flag. They start off in 2 legs. They start up at West Point, and they head all the way. They both end up and converge West Coast and East Coast, and end up down in Texas, where they're headquartered. And they raise awareness. We also raise money to help families that have lost somebody in service. Also to help disabled vets, and also police as well, correct?
Yeah, and first responders as well, correct.
So just give us your contact information one more time if anybody wants to learn more about how they can help these Afghan refugees. that are here within our community.
Sure. So you can contact me, or you can go to Hearts and Homes for Refugees. There's a website, just Google it. They're based out of Westchester, or you can call me. Again, my number is 757-803-4382. And my email address is dmshea1@gmail.com.
Great. Damien, listen, you've been a great guest, and I've known your family since I was a kid, your dad since I was a kid. I've met a bunch of your brothers and known them throughout the years, but it's a pleasure to work with you, but it's really an honor, to have you here working in the town based upon your service. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank my guests, Jason Horowitz and David Palma from REBOP, Jeff Domanski from Rockland Community Power, and veteran Damien Shea. Until next time, I'm Supervisor George Hoehmtown. Thanks for joining us.